work is spiritual, right? And that there's been a big divorce, over the last hundreds of years where people have tried to separate work and worship. And I think that's where this tension comes in. But once you realize that everything you do is worship, including work, then you're actually in alignment all the time.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's Lynn Pagotto here, helping you to achieve time freedom so you have more time for self, family, business, and life. Now in today's video, we're going to talk about what it's like to be a Christian entrepreneur. What are our challenges? How can we be successful in both as a Christian and as an entrepreneur? Now today's guest, I have Justin Pagotto, who is the founder of Tripsplus Holiday with Purpose. So he organizes families to go on a trip together to the Philippines, where they not only enjoy quality time together, but they will also help the disadvantaged kids or disadvantaged communities over there. So it's really a trip with purpose. So I invited Justin to speak with me about the challenges as a Christian entrepreneur, because I felt that he has more experience than I do, because he's been spending decades devoting his life to God as well as running multiple businesses. So listen up as Justin shares his journey. Hi everybody, it's Lynn here, and today I brought my friend Justin Pagotto, who runs Tripsplus company, right? Is that Tripsplus?
Tripsplus Holidays.
Yes, Tripsplus. Yeah, what I really love about him is he's a social entrepreneur. He cares about giving back. And so, as you know, my business helps to create jobs for people in the Philippines. And he creates amazing trips for people to go to the Philippines and experience life over there and have that deep, meaningful relationship between you and your kids, etc. So really got along with Justin. So welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Lynn. I love hanging out with you and getting to know you more and more over the time.
And apart from the philanthropy side of us, or the social side, what really got me to want to know you more and keep hanging out with you is our Christian side of thing. And in this video, I really want to share with people, I guess, the challenges of having two different hats. One is an entrepreneur hat who wants to hustle and succeed. And the other hat, when you find God, is that you have a different purpose in life now. Your life is more about giving back, about following God's path, about finding your gift and doing business in a different way. And as a newbie Christian, so I found God about a year ago. And the more I learn, the more I'm like, oh my God, am I being the old Lynn, or am I, I'm at that crossroad. And so I would love to.
There's tension inside you.
Yeah, it's this two head going, and I'm quick to catch myself, because I love God and I want to obey by God and I want to do the right thing by God, and I know it's the right thing for me to do. But then the old Lynn, the entrepreneur who is a bit of a hustler, comes out all the time, right? And so I guess the purpose of today's video is to learn from you who have been an entrepreneur longer than me and longer in Christ longer than me, and just to hear your perspective on how we balance that hat between entrepreneurship and a Christian entrepreneur.
Yeah, well, this is a big topic, and we were talking about it before. Like, there's a lot to it. So let's see how we go, and we might do, as you say, parts 2 or 3. But it is a tension, and probably the biggest thing that I wanted to share is that, being a Christian entrepreneur, a kingdom entrepreneur, as I prefer to call it, is about primarily serving the King and releasing his kingdom on the planet. And so it is going to be different to the other way of doing things. And what really transformed my understanding of this, so a short background, I went to University of New South Wales in the 90s, won't tell you exactly when, so you can work out my age, and I had this real struggle, should I even be going to university? Because I had some very powerful God encounters at that time. And I thought, should I just quit university and go to Bible college? Because that's what spiritual people do, right? If you're really spiritual, you go to Bible college and become a pastor. So this was a real wrestle back in the 90s when, there wasn't so much information about marketplace ministry. So anyway, there was this tension. A couple of things that really stood out to me was, number one, the very first part in Genesis where it says, and God gave Adam and Eve to work the ground, right? So God gave Adam and Eve to work the ground. And I looked up what that word work means, and it actually is avodah, A-V-O-D-A-H, and it actually means worship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the light bulbs came on for me, and I said, work is a form of worship. Right? So
the normal work, like the work that we do in business and
Well, Adam and Eve, they were working the ground. So this is before even they ate the apple and sinned, right? So this is in the perfection of the Garden of Eden. Work, God said, work is good, and it's a form of worship, right? So I want to say one thing is that work is spiritual, right? And that there's been a big divorce, over the last hundreds of years, where people have tried to separate work and worship. And I think that's where this tension comes in. But once you realize that everything you do is worship, including work, then you're actually in alignment all the time. So you don't put on your worship hat when you go to church. You don't take it off when you leave church. You always are in a form of worship. So that's the first thing I'd like to mention.
Yeah. And I think I know from a fact that if I run a business, I'm working amongst, team members, the people I'm hiring. It is also my purpose to, I guess, serve them, to do well by them. So what I mean is, like, when they say to be the good disciple is when you actually, I guess, lead by example. And it means the people you work with, the clients that you serve, they're all the people that you need to, as children of God. So it's your opportunity to actually still do the right thing. And so I get that part. Now, my part that I think the biggest challenge is kind of wanting the dreams that I normally want, which is like, I want to make a lot of sales. I want to make a lot of money. And of course, deep down, I know that, I'm doing it for the right thing, where I want to create more jobs and I want to do well for my family, and etc. But then it's the crossroad going, but God wants me to seek his guidance to kind of, no, it's not your way, it's his way. Or it's not about asking, wanting all these things, like I want 100 sales, I want to turn over this much, and then go, God, can you please give me that?
Yeah. Can you bless what I'm doing?
Yes. Yes. So how do you, as an entrepreneur, have that peace of mind? How do I shift my mindset to go, what is a practice? Maybe it's an everyday practice that I need to do to bring myself back to what God wants me to do.
Yeah, you want the lead magnet on how to do it.
Yeah, the lead magnet.
Okay. I have done a lead magnet on this actually, but I'll share it. Well, there's two things that I'll share what makes sense to me, and hopefully that'll be of value. The first one is really to define what is real prosperity to you, to each person. And this is where I think, again, the kingdom entrepreneurship and perhaps, the world's way of entrepreneurship is different. In the world's way of entrepreneurship, the unicorns are seen as that is the epitome, isn't it? The Facebook and Googles and Amazons and whatever. Whereas, is that what God has for us? And as you said, it's a changing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if there's kingdom entrepreneurs who are called to and want to build that, go for it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is ask the question of what is real prosperity, right? And again, I had a few light bulb moments over the years. One was that work is worship. Probably the second big one, I think, was about 20 years ago. And I looked up, so I love to look up what words mean in Greek and Hebrew, because English is, a bit of a boring language, right? Whereas Hebrew and Greek, there's a lot more richness. And one of the words in the Old Testament for prosperity is Salem, S-A-L-E-M. And what do you think that means, Lynn Padetti?
Salem.
Right, what does prosperity mean in the Hebrew?
Salute. I don't know. The word that came up in my mind was salute. But no, I have no idea.
Google it.
No, I don't know.
No idea? Okay.
Anything that popped up was salute. I don't know. That's it.
It actually means peace, wholeness, and well-being in every area of life. Right? And so to me, when I read that, my whole worldview exploded what does actually prosperity mean as a kingdom entrepreneur? You know, I think Western society puts way too much focus on money, right? And we need money to live and do things. But is it at the expense of everything else? So why do we have such mental health problems in a world that is so prosperous in Australia, right? Whereas peace, wholeness and well-being in every area of my life is very relational, which is what God's like. And it means my health, you know, how am I looking after this body that I've been given? If you don't have health in your body, what wealth do you have? If you don't have wealth in your relationships, if you've got broken relationships and you're a mongrel who treats people terribly, right? Regardless of how successful you are financially, what good is that to you? You know, if you have no purpose, though, know something about giving back, how wealthy are you? You know, and we might talk about this later, we may not, but you know, Tripsplus was founded on this premise that there is no greater joy than giving to those people who cannot repay you.
Yeah, I love
you know,
that.
and I've been not just there, but also in Australia. There's something that happens when you give to people who can't repay you, and it's something that has to be recaptured. You know, wealth in what else? In just, you know, sport and having fun and leisure and joy. You know, we all need things that we do just for our own enjoyment. Like I like mountain biking, haven't been very much because it's rains up here in Port Macquarie all the time. But I also play cricket, you know, just to be around people and hopefully score some runs and take some wickets and not drop too many catches. So I want to ask, I guess, Christian entrepreneurs, don't define yourself by what you see on social media saying you have to be, you know, growing your business at 7,000% per month, you know, to be whatever it is. Ask yourself that question, what does real prosperity mean to me? And write it down and include your business goals in that. But make sure, like I've had the privilege of being around for my kids. So one of my goals has been be around for my kids. So I've actually worked less in the last 15 years and earned less money because that's a big goal of mine. You know?
Yeah, that's such a great reminder. So I feel like I have really balanced my life with always time for health, time for family. You know, last weekend I just decided I want to go somewhere. So my husband's like, all right, fine. We went to Wollongong. So I'm always like, I guess, living in the moment and having that balanced life.
You're at the gym at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? So you're fitting a lot in.
I have a lot in. I wake up 3 a.m., fit a lot in. So I think I feel really wholesome. So I guess it's a reminder for me to go, it's okay if you I guess, satisfying every area, your family's happy, your husband's happy with your time with him, and yet you still want to achieve more financial success so that you could give back more, whatever. It's okay, except it's not okay if you are stressing out about it and sacrificing other parts of life just to get the finance. I think that is that clarity there.
Yeah, well, you see it in the news all the time, people dying early. A lot of these very successful entrepreneurs not getting to their 60th birthday, you know, dying of cancer or dying of something, worked hard all their life and don't get to enjoy it, or they have broken relationships or don't see their kids, or their kids don't want to talk to them. You know, what's that? And the second secret, which, as I said, I have done a lead magnet on this, so I'm laughing, is I had this aha moment. I love a
lot of aha moments,
you know, light bulb moments. But that's when it really clicks in your life. I was on the driveway of in my house in Sydney when I lived in Sydney, and I sort of had this impression, as you get, about the hierarchy, right, or the hierarchy of priorities. You know, divine priorities, divine hierarchy, and I like to break things down. You know, probably entrepreneurs do, into a way you can explain it to other people. And, you know, yes, we have to act, right? So we have to act, but it's different, I think, than what it's in the reverse order, right? So A stands for abide in God first, right? So John 15, which is one of my favorite passages, says, it talks about the vine and the branches and Jesus being giving us life, and he even prunes the things which are not fruitful in our life. But that whole passage is, we get divine life when we abide in our vertical relationship with him and put that as a priority. So we spend time in intimacy, letting God love us, which I think is the first priority, and then letting that love change us, and then loving him back. So that's A, right? Abide in God and you will bear much fruit. That's the promise, right? So we want to be fruitful, but again, every person has to work out, what does fruitfulness mean to them? I think it should be in the concept of that real prosperity message, and work out, who you are and what type of person. Like, I love doing a lot of everything. Like, my days are so varied with the various things that I'm really passionate about. So could be doing some stuff in my money business part of the day, or then I could be talking to broken families and helping them to bring relational health and wealth into their family. And then at another time I could be talking with someone in the Solomon Islands about taking a medical team over there to do free medical trips. That's what I'm created for. So everyone has to work that out. Okay, C, right? C for commune or community, right? So Jesus said, love one another in the same way that I have loved you. So our first priority is to develop our intimacy, our vertical connection with God. The second priority is to learn how to love people. Because if we can't love people, what's the point of life? So our love, we need to first receive love to be able to then love back, right? So I spend a lot of time trying to work out, how am I going to love my family better, investing in time and resources? How can I love my community better? How can I love my cricket team better? So I serve my cricket team. I'm the president of our very small club, but practical forms of love,
Yeah.
And then the third one, T, is the transform, right? That we are called with a purpose to do things, right? And that's in our businesses. That really comes down to those things: loving God, loving people, and seeing people transform, right?
So
but most people get it round the wrong way.
Yeah. And when you say transform, are you saying we are transforming, or we help others transform?
Both.
Okay.
I think we're transformed in the process of transforming others. Right? So, we live in a society that's become a very me-first society. Serve me, me, me. It's all about me. But real transformation, the happiest people on the planet are those people who are helping other people to get transformed. And in the process, they get transformed as well. And that's across all industries, right? But I think it's a really big danger that we get the order of those wrong. And you just go into work mode. What am I going to do? What am I going to produce? What am I going to do for God, right? And that's a recipe for burnout land and getting your identity from the wrong place. And it's just not a healthy place to live. If you have that divine order in place, and let's face it, like you don't graduate and go to that place ACT. You can go back and forth, and forget about it. But that's the Christian life, is continually reorientating our heart towards those three things, to check our hearts, check what's going on. And of course, we're going to have busy lives sometimes when it's harder, right? But if you consistently do that, we will bear much fruit and be productive. Yeah.
And basically, the reason why I got led into Christianity is that I was actually kind of already living a Christian life without knowing that was all taught in the Bible or Christianity. But then when I found Christianity and all these things, all these, I guess, principles in life, I kind of get it. It was just like, that's what I believe in. It's about loving people, about, serving others. But when it comes to the moment I added God in it every single morning now, where every morning I wake up and the first thing I do is meditate on God, whether I'm listening to a meditation track about trusting God and then learning a small passage from the Bible, it just makes my day so much better. It's like it soothes my soul. And then the day that I don't do that, there's a
tangible difference, because it's like eating. If we don't eat, will atrophy. Our body will shrink if we don't feed ourselves on God. Our spiritual muscle atrophies as well.
Yeah.
And it does come down to love, right? So it was because of love that Jesus put his hand up when the Father said, will you go on a rescue mission to save the human race and to pay the price that they should have had, right? They should, to take the punishment that we deserved. He took it so that we can be reconciled back to God. That ultimately was the ultimate form of love.
Yeah.
And is what is so beautiful, and I guess what makes what Jesus did so unique.
Yeah. And so the other thing as an entrepreneur is that we will always face challenges. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you are just living in this life, we have challenges. And I think where I had to kind of learn and I guess seek God was, there was a video that I listened to, and it was about God cares more about your character than he cares about your comfort. And he wants to build you up through helping you. You have to go through challenges to embrace, to learn and to develop yourself. And knowing that, it made so much sense. And I was just like, you know what? Bring on the challenges, because I know God wants me to go through.
Dangerous prayer.
So yeah, what's your thought on that? Like, that is what I had to kind of get my head around so that I can embrace it more.
Well, it comes down to what is the ultimate purpose of living our life for Jesus. And the ultimate thing is to be conformed to the image of his will. That by the time we leave this planet, we look, act, feel, behave, and experience more like God. Right? So, John the Baptist said, I need more of you and less of me. Right? So the role of discipleship, or the role of spiritual maturity, is whilst we're on this planet, learning how to become more like Jesus, who is perfect love, who is perfect servant. And whether we like it or not, challenges, suffering, obstacles are probably the number one way that the human heart grows. Unfortunately, humans can tend to be lazy and we won't always change of our own volition, right? But obstacles, challenges, and even, shall I say, suffering in my life been the primary way where I become a vastly different person. And you have to call upon God to help in situations, and you become a person that I don't think you can become without it. That's my bottom line, being absolutely real. I don't subscribe to this thing that life is easy all the time for a kingdom entrepreneur. I don't think.
Yeah. And I think when you go through challenges is when you seek God even more. Like you actually cry out to God, you surrender to God. And I feel like that's what got me that's what got me to finding God in the first place. 10 years ago when I was hit, rock bottom and just like, oh my God, I need help. So I was an atheist. I had no religion. I just thought this was all legends of, some stories people were passing on, and great to listen to, but it's not real. But then that was the only time I surrendered, and then God changed my life. But I didn't find Jesus Christ till last year. But I definitely all of a sudden was afraid of God and also loved God at the same time. It was like there was this powerful force. I know that he's watching me. I know that he's forgiven me and he's going to help me. And the fact that he brought some miracles, like my husband found me on YouTube, which was so random, and everything I wanted in the vision board in that year changed. So he turned an atheist into a believer, but believer in a sense, like there was a God out there. And then I would say that only last year did I finally, realize there was Jesus and went into the Christian world. But it was great because all it was just I still was doing exactly the same thing in terms of trying to be more godly, trying to be doing the right thing. But now it's just giving me more of a path to continue to develop myself in the spiritual realm, like because the Bible is so big. It's like, you can learn forever and you have to reread it as well. And so I feel like it's really feeding my soul now. I'm like, before I was hungry 9 years and I just couldn't find anything more than just the law of attraction and a few books in here about personal development, if you know what I mean. But then now it's much deeper, that I feel like it's really exciting. But one thing that is a bigger shift for me though, is just learning to ask for guidance more than just asking for blessing. So that is what I have to get my head around. And when I do that, I actually have a better day, because I often go back into my human self and go, oh God, I really would like some more sales today, right? And then
we've all said that.
And then God always brings some amazing people around me. So there's a guy in the Philippines who keeps sending me verses from the Bible every day. And then that one day he sends me a verse that says, basically, seek God or ask God for your guidance. And I was like, thanks for that reminder. And then the next day I just shifted to, dear God, I know I'm going to have a great day today, and I'd love for you to tell me what you like me to do today or something. And it just gave me this piece of just going with the flow today. And then better things actually happen on that day than other days that I was like, on thing. Does that happen to you?
Well, a couple of things. It is a tension, learning how to co-labor, to walk in step with God. So the Bible talks all the time about keep in step with the Spirit, right? So we are meant to be guided and walking, and it's part of abiding. And I know when I'm abiding in God, well, everything else just seems to flow in my life. Okay, and when I'm not abiding, everything can be hard. Right. But the other thing is that when we become a follower of Jesus, the Holy Spirit actually comes to live inside of us, giving us the power to love God and love people and to do what He's called us to do, which is called grace. Grace, God's grace, and the Apostle Paul talks about grace a lot of times. I don't know how many, maybe 265 times. I think I read it the other day. Could be wrong. Anyway, a lot, right? So he's always saying it's God's grace, it's God's power within us. We literally have the Holy Spirit living inside of us, and getting in tune with Him, right? And learning how to walk in step, I think is really what it's about. But it is hard, because as you said, we go into the old Lynn and the new Lynn, right? But hopefully over time we're learning how to do it more. But in terms of being led, maybe this is a good time where I'll just share the Tripsplus story, right? Mm-hmm. So just to reiterate what is actually Tripsplus. So Tripsplus is a social enterprise, holidays with purpose company that takes various groups, being parents and kids, school, surface loading on mission trips, medical missions, other trips to the Philippines to do what we call a holiday with purpose. Now, we started about 4 or 5 years ago, and I'll tell you how it started. I wasn't looking to start a social enterprise holidays with purpose company, right? It wasn't on my radar. I was busy, in the businesses that I was running, busy with the family, as I said, spending lots of time with them and doing some of the other stuff I was passionate about, like ending human trafficking and all that stuff. But my friend Mario stood up in our church and said, we're going on a leadership trip to the Philippines where we're going to do leadership training in some of the churches in the middle of nowhere. Who wants to come? Right? And so we also had a chance around that same time to go to Africa and go to this incredible, amazing opportunity through our Iris Ministries, through Heidi Baker's group. And when Mario stood up and said that, something in my heart burned within me. That's the only way I can describe it, right? And I came home and I said to my wife, I think I've just got to go on this trip. I said, I don't know why, right? I've just got to go. And for Africa, I didn't feel like, even though it was an incredible opportunity and people went and had a great time, for me, there was no internal excitement. So that's one of the things I use when evaluating things, is my spirit. Does my spirit get really excited about something, right? And so I went once and I obeyed once and followed the guidance of God, had a brilliant time. And then Mario and I on the plane home were saying, gee, we love that. What can we do to actually help the Philippines to transform in our little way a part of the Philippines? And then we just kept following that thread. And then Tripsplus was born, and COVID's put a bit of a
I can't wait for it to happen again, though.
Right?
Oh
especially given that we put in 2 years of hard work and we're really just starting to launch. But the reality is it'll come back, right? Yeah. But I, as I said, I didn't have any plans, anything to do that.
Yeah.
But it's about following. And I could say that about a number of things in my life. You know, we're talking to some people in the Solomon Islands at the moment. And if you asked me, you know, a year ago whether we'd be looking at doing stuff in the Solomon Islands, I would have laughed outrageously, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's something that's just happened as I've tried to keep in touch, in step with the spirit.
Yeah, and it's aligned with your values, and you feel it in your heart, right? Like these opportunities come up, but you just feel like it's the right thing to proceed and follow step by step.
And there's still hard work in all of it. You know, it's not like, you know, God will give you a dream or a vision from him, and then it's just easy and you do it. No, most of the time I've found.
Yeah. But I think also he humbles you along the way, because if he just gives you everything your way, you become arrogant or become like complacent or just, I think us as human beings, unless we're kind of thrown in a little bit of adversity and a little bit of challenges, it just makes you appreciate things more humble, more grounded. You know, I think before I found God, I was quite arrogant. I was like, I can do this, I can control everything will be all right. And it was just really hard work in that way. And then when I surrendered was when I guess I became more of a humble person, and realizing that I don't know everything. I guess I'm nicer to other people, and I listen to other people more. I seek information, right? And so I think or sometimes you have people or myself going through miscarriages or something, you know, and when you do have kids, you actually appreciate more, because you know that it's not like you can just have a baby anytime you want. Because some parents actually think like that. They think, oh, I'll just, so not parents, but some couples, they're like, I'll just go to travel, when I have a baby, I'll have a baby. And then when it was hard to have a baby was when they're like, oh my God, now I realize. And I'm like, it's okay, because when you do have a baby, you're going to really appreciate that.
Yeah. And the reality, back to what we were saying before, is that what is God's ultimate purpose for us is to make us into his image. So we have to trust, the potter molding the clay, shaping us and guiding us, and that's a part of it. Going through hard times, going through difficulties is just a part of life. And back to what you were saying before as well about this realization that you are arrogant and proud. Well, isn't that the human condition? Right? Isn't that exactly what Jesus came to do, to save a world that needed saving? Right? That's the heart of the good news of the gospel, is we can't save ourselves. We can't make ourselves right with God. We need someone who's perfect, who's beautiful, who loves perfectly, who is kind, who is generous, who says, I'll do everything that's required. God coming to earth and humbling himself, right, still cracks me up. And he said, I'm not going to be served as a king, right, which he could have if he wanted to. I'll come and serve humanity.
Amazing.
Right? And this is the God of the universe, right? The unlimited, uncreated one, who came and said he loves us so much that he sees our arrogance and our pride, right, and our independence and our, just all the stuff. We're all broken in some way. Right? But he says, no, I'll step into the mess and I will do what's necessary. And all I want you to do is to come to me and say, I don't have the answers. I need help. I need, to be redeemed. I need to be saved, and I'll put my trust in you. And most people, like whether they're, believers in Jesus or not, they all love Psalm 23. Right? So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. He leads me beside the still waters. Even though I walk through the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff are with me. People like rap songs about that.
Yeah, right.
Walking through the shadow of death and all that.
I've heard that. Coolio.
Yeah. Gangster's Paradise.
Yes, Gangster's Paradise. Yes, you know that. Yeah.
Right. So we have a good shepherd for our souls. Right. We have a person we can bring all our burdens to. Like, we're not meant to live our burdens. We're not meant to work it out ourselves. I think for me, one of the greatest things is to when I start stressing out is I just start replaying that psalm and going, God, you are my shepherd. You know, you lead me down into the still waters. I'm going to come and drink deeply of your love. I'm going to come and drink deeply of your peace and your righteousness, that, you know, everything's going to be okay because you're with me. You know, I'm going to come and lie down. So let me lie down in terms of rest from trying to work it out myself sometimes, and let you do it. And sometimes you have some areas of your life where life's really hard. You know, it's not easy, but he takes us through, and he promises that even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, Coolio style, you know, he's with us.
Yes.
And that's what we can take with us. So ups and downs, you know, we all have them. We all have success. We all have failure. You know, I've had plenty of failure in my life, let me tell you.
Just surround ourselves with each other like this. You know, we're all entrepreneurs. We're all going through the Christian journey together. And I think, it's really about just feeding ourselves with more positive people that understand this and understand what life is really about. And you don't feel lonely in that sense. So, it's just going to wrap this up because I know we so much we can talk about, but I'm definitely going to be talking to you again about other Christian topics, especially for entrepreneurs out there who are on the same journey as me. You know, it's a different world. Entrepreneurship for the last 10 years is different. Entrepreneurship as a Christian is very different. So I know that other people are seeking this information too. So thank you so much, Justin, for being on.
Well, I'd love to talk about fathering. That's another passion.
Yep. We'll be talking more about that then. Thank you.
So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed the interview with Justin. For me, the takeaway is that, you know, when it comes to God, he's always testing us. Do you truly love him? Do you truly trust him? Because if you do, you wouldn't, you know, I guess react to challenges as bad as you would. And when you love him, is it because you're loving him so that you could get what you want? Or you truly love him because he's the Almighty and he exists and you know that he's more powerful than anything and he has a plan for your life and that all you need to do is follow his path. For me, it's like, you know, when you love your children, you don't love them because you're hoping that one day they're going to take care of you and give you everything, but you love them because you just unconditionally love them. And so for me, my takeaway is that I truly love God, and no matter what he has in store for me, that I really appreciate my life. Now, I'd love to hear in the comments below what your takeaway was from watching this video. And if you love more videos like this, check out my other videos on this channel.